I have made past videos about various Covenanters, those who were persecuted for being faithful to the National Covenant of Scotland. Today I want to share about a man who, though perhaps was not a Covenanter himself, was one who sympathized and helped where he could. His name was Michael Smith, and he owned a small inn in an area called Coralwood near Dumfries. Primary source for the following stories is a book first published in 1841, in which the author, the Reverend Robert Simpson, spoke with Smith's great-granddaughter, Margaret Smith. Covenanters were often forced into hiding, sometimes fleeing for their very lives from the persecution of the government soldiers. Some found their way to Smith's small inn. Smith would ask no questions, but would give them a place to sleep and food to eat, often without charging them anything. Suspecting that he was harboring those deemed to be rebels, Smith was questioned by soldiers. They first asked him had he ever allowed a Covenanter to stay at his inn, and if so, whether he charged them any money. Smith replied that he ran an inn and it was not his business to ask everyone who came their personal questions about themselves. Also, he was in the habit of providing accommodation to those who were poor or struggling and did not always charge them if they could not afford to pay. This answer seemed to satisfy the soldiers, as Smith was allowed to go free. On another occasion, it is recorded that Smith was ordered to help locate some Covenanters who were thought to be hiding in the area. A group of soldiers demanded that Smith lead them to the local glen and help with the search. Smith, though unwilling, had little choice. As he came through the woods on a narrow path, with the soldiers following right behind him, he saw ahead of him a man who had fallen asleep from exhaustion. Realizing it was probably a Covenanter, he was unsure what to do, for if he was seen to hesitate, then the soldiers might suspect something. But he also did not want to give the man away. Thinking quickly, he turned back towards the soldiers and shouted, "Look at that hare behind you!" Just as a large hare appeared, the soldiers were distracted, and the Covenanter awoke and made his escape. Perhaps the best known story, certainly the one that I've read about the most in various books, is when three men came to him fleeing from soldiers. He gave them some food to eat, and they were just settling in when a company of dragoons came riding up. The three men cried out that there is certainly no hope for them now. Smith, again thinking quickly, sprang into action. He told them to lean forward on the table and pretend to be asleep. He then took some malt and spread it around the table. When the dragoons came to the door and asked if there were any escaping Covenanters there, Michael replied that there were three men inside, but that the soldiers could judge for themselves if the men were praying Covenanters or drunken men who had been into the malt. Having looked inside and seen what indeed appeared to be drunken men asleep, the soldiers were satisfied and went away, allowing the men to escape. One reason I find these stories so fascinating is that Smith is an example of an average person, certainly not famous, who simply did what he could to help people and probably saved countless lives. There were many such people during this sad time in Scottish history, men and women who gave hospitality and showed compassion, often at great danger to themselves. Many were even killed for doing so. I hope you have enjoyed these stories. Until next time, goodbye.